Chapter 85, Transport. Sam. I gotta give it to Hannah. These hang gliders work, especially with the harness she installed when she forgot to mention. As soon as I jumped off the train, I caught tailwind that began carrying me north out of downtown Detroit and toward I-94, which I'm going to follow west of and hang glide over Lake Michigan as a shortcut to Robbinsog and the Chicago area. Do you want us to follow you? I heard Dr. Marcassius yell from a good distance behind me. I stuck out my thumbs up from my cloak hang glider. Okay, I heard Dr. Marcassius yell from behind me. I've only been airborne about 3 minutes, and I was over I-94, and then I turned to follow it west. Are we now following I-94? I heard Dr. Marcassius yell from behind me. I stuck my thumb out. Good to know, said Dr. Marcassius. I didn't realize there were cop cars below me. Shit, we're being followed on the ground, I thought to myself. I then heard the loud boom, followed by Georgia screaming. George, was that you? I heard Dr. Marcassius yell. Yes, I found the boy, you almost hit me, said George. I then grabbed the tear gas bomb and threw it down on the ground. How many votes do we have left? Dr. Marcassius asked. I then clicked my heels 10 times. 10? Dr. Marcassius asked. I stuck my thumbs up. Good, said Dr. Marcassius. There was a pause as I was leading us into the Dearborn and Romulus areas by the Detroit airport. Are you doing okay, Hannah? Dr. Marcassius asked from behind me. I am, but what are you doing about my parents' motorcycles? Hannah asked. They got rid of them like that? I'm sure they've probably destroyed them, but right now we are busy saving our mother. But I am sorry we lost them. It won't happen again, said Dr. Marcassius. I didn't want to look at the expression on Hannah's face behind me, even if I could. I'm sure she was upset. How long do you think this will take us? George asked. For a quick second, because it was made my hang glider cloaks were, I stuck out 4 figures to represent 4 hours. 4 hours? George asked from behind. Yes, answered Dr. Marcassius for me. How high up would you say we are? Hannah asked. 100 feet or so, answered Dr. Marcassius. I would say that was about right. We then pulled past the interchange of I-94 and I-275 on the west side of Detroit. And I could see Belleville, Ypsilanti, and Ann Arbor all ahead of me, and I-94 for a long distance ahead of me, and there was no cars on it. Sam, do you know I heard no cars on I-94 ahead of us down below? Yelled Dr. Marcassius. I was about to give a thumbs down, and I heard the noise from down below. Stop in the name of America, I heard from down below. Well, that is why, said Dr. Marcassius. Can you find the source? Asked Hannah. I can. It is directly below us, said Dr. Marcassius. I then threw a tear gas bomb down below. Nothing quite like giving cry into a megaphone when we are trying to save our mother's life, I thought to myself. That reminds me of something I needed to tell Dr. Marcassius. I pickpocketed out of Dr. Jacobs' dead body on the people mover. Great shot, said Dr. Marcassius. I gave a thumbs up. I then picked up a tailwind, even if I was just 100 feet up from it, began flying faster until I was going about 80 miles per hour, and then the wind felt so good on my face it was unbelievable. Maybe it will take us less than 4 hours now, said George from a distance. Apparently, unlike me, Hannah was able to look behind herself. I can't see the Detroit skyline anymore, said Hannah, looking behind us, I think. That means we are well on our way to Chicago and Robbinsog, said Dr. Marcassius. And most likely it will get you faster if the wind keeps pushing us like this and take the shortcut over Lake Michigan, said George. I gave George a thumbs up for knowing his geography. I then in my head began listening to music without earbuds as I flew over Ann Arbor. I was done listening to the song Why Do Fools Fall in Love by Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers in my head before Dr. Marcassius got my attention. I-94, now there's traffic on it again, said Dr. Marcassius. Is that good or a bad thing? George asked. Good, because that way we know it isn't for us, said Dr. Marcassius. I then gave a thumbs up and right. How long until Jacksonville to Sunoco was? Hannah asked. My guess is about 30 minutes with this tailwind, said Dr. Marcassius. Then the tailwind stopped. Make that 40, said Dr. Marcassius. Why do you asked, George asked. No reason, Hannah answered. We cannot make an emergency landing, said Dr. Cassius. Okay, said Hannah. Now I could see Jackson, but I could also see the fact the ground was moving slow because we weren't in tailwind. What's that dot growing in size to the northwest of us? George asked. I then took a look at the dot and I saw it get bigger to the point where I realized there was smoke coming from behind it. That's a missile, said Dr. Cassius. I then threw a sound a dramatic amount. Is it going after us? George asked, quite frightened. I then heard a loud boom from the southeast of me. No, said Dr. Cassius. I then got out the Chicago Police Department gun. Are you going to open fire? Dr. Cassius asked. I gave a thumbs up. Fire away, said Dr. Cassius. I then began firing to the northwest of us as soon as we gained altitude, and I couldn't tell if they hit or missed the building or not, but it cost me 3 bullets, so let's hope I don't have to use any more. Good job, hit or miss, said Dr. Cassius. I gave a thumbs up. 10 minutes later, and we were beyond Jackson. Can you see Kalamazoo? Hannah asked. I stuck out thumbs down. How long do you think we'll be until we get there? Hannah asked. Immediately after Hannah said that, we felt another current pick up to boost our speed. 40 minutes, said Dr. Cassius. It was about 10 minutes of me concentrating on following I-94 toward the coastline, and then I got something completely unexpected, which was George getting in front of me. George, remember, during this part of the operation, Sam is the leader at all times, Dr. Cassius. I then began to go up a little bit to where it was more windy so that I could surpass George. Are you going to be okay if I am near you from here on out? I gave a thumbs up. I know that you were always the leader, and I'm sorry I surpassed you for a little bit, said George. I then gave another thumbs up. I was beginning to see Kalamazoo, so I kept on concentrating on following I-94, but Sam asked me a few questions. Are you scared? Are you scared right now? George asked. I gave a thumbs down. I was, but I'm not now. I personally find this fun. Do you find this fun? I know you were afraid of flying, but I don't think you will anymore. I gave a thumbs up. How long until we're in Chicago and Robbinsog-The areas now? George asked. I stuck up 2 fingers. Hey, George, how about you stop bothering Sam, said Dr. Cassius. It was actually a problem that Dr. Cassius was telling George to do this because he was not bothering me, but there was no way I can tell Dr. Cassius that without turning around. Oh, sorry, Sam, said George. We were then flying over Kalamazoo, and I-94 was closed again beyond Kalamazoo. Sam, get weapons ready, said Dr. Cassius. I then gave a thumbs up to Dr. Cassius. I'll let you know if you see if I see anything I want you to attack before using weapons for me, said Dr. Cassius. I gave a thumbs up. Me too, said Hannah. Me three, said George. Remember, George, you are not the general, said Dr. Cassius. You're right, sorry, said George. We then began passing over downtown Kalamazoo, and we saw a ton of cops from down below. We were pretty much flying through downtown since we were only 100 feet above the air the whole time. Do the cops have their guns pointed at us? George asked. I don't like the look of it, said Dr. Cassius. I then dropped 2 tear gas bombs on Kalamazoo. Wow, without asking, said Dr. Cassius. I gave a thumbs up. 3 miles to the coastline, and then it was just a flight over Lake Michigan, and we will be on the ground. It's not important if it's as close to the Illinois coast as we can get to Robbins. We'll get there from there. If we choose not to make a landing, we will stay flying. That'll be okay as long as we all stick together, said Hannah. Good job, my vice general, said Dr. Cassius. Good job to my general, said Hannah. This is where Dr. Cassius and Hannah would kiss if it weren't for the fact they were 100 feet in the air and they needed to concentrate on following me. Can you see the coastline? George asked. I then gave a thumbs down. George, remember I said do not bother him, said Dr. Cassius. Oh yeah, said George. Sorry. Again, I had no problems with him talking to me. Now I was beginning to see the Michigan coastline, and the others were going to be able to see the coastline soon. Are we going to begin our descent, or now, or over the lake, or once we get into Illinois? George asked. I don't know when, Dr. Cassius answered. Why? George asked. Because Sam is the judge of that, said Dr. Cassius. We were closer to the western Michigan coast than I thought. It was only about 10 minutes before we were over the water.